Long exposure photography and why you should be doing it. Let's do this.
My name is Andy Hornby, photographer and vlogger. 17 years ago I started teaching myself photography. Today I travel the UK as a professional wedding photographer, landscape photographer and filmmaker. Learn from my experiences, my mistakes and my tips and advice.
Look at this gorgeous sky behind me, look. These things, filters, these are very, very good little bits of kit because these can fool your camera into thinking that it's darker out than it actually is, which means we can slow our shutter speed down. And that's all long exposure photography is. To be fair, anything, you know, around a second or two is considered to be long exposure photography, but sometimes you want to go a little bit longer, maybe a minute or two, and see that thing just there? You can smooth the sea out. And those nice clouds in the background, if they're moving, you can get a very, very nice streaky, cloudy look in the sky and the sun's coming out right on my face. Anyway, I'm going to run through the steps you're going to need to take to get, you know, to make your long exposure photography really simple, because you know I like to make things simple. Try and show you why long exposure photography can be so good actually, because things like the pier you see behind me, they're photographed all the time by lots of photographers. And the way I could make that look different to everyone else is by just doing a quick long exposure of it. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to show you how to easily make this scene look pretty damn good and completely different to what everyone else is getting. So I'm going to set my kit up and let's get a picture of this lovely scene here and try and see if we can get some long exposures out of it. Let's do that. See you in a bit. Okay, so before you come down and just start shooting off with your ND filter on the front of this, you have to ask yourself a couple of questions. The first one is, do I absolutely have to do a long exposure? Because if I've got no clouds in the sky, I've got no movement in the water, or I'm not trying to get rid of people or do light trails, there's probably no need to do long exposure photography at all. It's probably just going to be a waste of your time. And let's face it, long exposure photography takes a long time. It's in the title, right? Couple of things you're going to need if you're going to do long exposure photography during the day: ND filters. Now I've got a few videos on these, so look back through my videos. I'm not going to massive depth. This is a 10-stop ND filter. And the other thing you're going to need is an off-camera shutter release, because if you're going to push the camera more than 30 seconds, you're going to need a shutter release to do that, because the camera doesn't do that. You'd have to go into bulb mode on your camera. Learn how to use your camera. I'm not going to teach you in this lesson how to put your camera to bulb mode, because all cameras are different. This one's really simple. Just keep moving my shutter speed right down past 30 seconds and it goes into bulb mode. If you've got a Canon or Nikon, potentially there's probably a button somewhere. There might even be a B on your dial on top, and that's bulb mode. Potentially, I don't know. It all depends on what system you're using. So they're the two things you're going to need. But before you go shoving the ND filter on the front of your lens, there's a few things you're going to need to do first. The first one, of course, is get a composition. So we're going to turn our camera on. We're going to look for a composition. And I'm actually going to manual focus. Now what you can do is use your automatic focus first to focus on whatever you're going to focus on. Like here is the pier, and then switch it over to manual, which on this lens I've got a button that pushes over to manual. You may have to do it in camera, I don't know. And then you need to get an exposure before you do anything else, so you need to get a base exposure. I talk about this all the time in many different videos, in many different situations where I see photographers come out doing things like light trails and stuff like that, and they're not getting their base exposure first. So get an ambient exposure, and then you can calculate how many stops you can push the shutter speed slower to compensate once you put a 10-stop filter on there. And think of it like this, when you've got your base exposure and you put your ND filter on the front of here, we're then fooling our camera that it's 10 stops darker, so we can use our shutter speed to compensate for those 10 stops. To do your calculation, apps. I've got a video on apps, I'm not going to cover that here. I've got an app called Exposure Calculator, funnily enough. It's the first app in my list because it's the one I use all the time. And all I need to do is put my base exposure in the top half, and then the bottom half calculates what my shutter speed is going to be. It's really simple, that's it. So let me look, I've gone F10, ISO 100, this is on 50th, F10, ISO 100. And if I put my ND filter on this now, I can get 2 minutes 44. Let's just try that. We'll do 2 minutes 44, not a problem. ND filter. Put it on the right way. It helps. I'm now in bulb mode on there because I've just changed my shutter speed right down to bulb. And on this it's really simple, I just push it up and hold. It holds my shutter open on the camera. Really simple. And I've got a time on there, 2 minutes 44. I'll fast this bit forward for you. Let's have a look. Oh, actually that's not too bad at all. First shot, first time. Now I see a lot of photographers come down here and they'll go and put one of these things on here and spend an hour trying to get the right exposure. Get your base exposure first. If I can teach you anything, it's base exposure first, and then calculate what your exposure is going to be once you put that thing on. The clouds are really far away, so there's not a whole lot of movement in the clouds, but I'll tell you what, that water looks awesome. And this filter is pretty amazing because it gives a nice blue colour cast. Let me show you that right now. Yes! There's not a lot to do to that, honestly. That is how it is. Let me show you on camera. I'm going to show you that. Actually on camera now. Any good? Well, I'll tell you something, it's bloody lovely. I like it, really good. First shot. Doesn't have to be difficult, make it really simple for yourself. Couple of tips to remember. If you're on the beach and you're on wet sand, you're going to sink. If you're doing a 2 minute exposure, that's no good. Get some old CDs, bring them down and put them under your legs to the tripod, and you won't sink. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll make sure my tripod is really low to the ground. So again, you've got that really low centre of gravity, no movement in your tripod. This tripod is very, very steady. But if you've got an older tripod, you may want to get really close to the ground. I'm talking about getting the legs wide out as close as you possibly can. Get bags around it or something. I think this sea's still coming in. But just do what you can to get your centre of gravity really, really low. And you won't go far wrong. Just use these really quick, easy steps and you'll get it first time. So while that's doing another exposure, you can see I'm really low to ground in this one. Getting that centre of gravity really low. Let me recap a few things. So when you're going to do long exposure photography, obviously you're going to need a trigger, some kind of release. If you want to go past 30 seconds, you don't have a choice. If you're going to need an ND filter, if you're going to shoot long exposures during the day, It just is what it is. Is it raining? And be patient. Don't come down here, whack your ND filter on, expect to get a picture straight away, because you're going to struggle. Okay, get your base exposure first and then use a calculator, some kind of app. There's lots out there. The one I use is called Exposure Calculator to calculate your shutter speed. Really simple, that's it. You don't make it any more difficult than that. 2 minutes 10. Just keep it really, really simple. Make sure you've got a pretty decent composition. You have a reason to do long exposure in the first place, and that's it. You know, this is long exposure 2020 style. Let's do it easy. I do a long exposure workshop. It's a couple of hours, but you learn most of the stuff I've just taught you on this video in the first 10 minutes, and we just go to some awesome locations where long exposure photography is just fantastic. So if you live in the south of England, or you want to pop across and do a long exposure workshop, I've got one in a few weeks. Come on down, or at least look at my website. Okay, I'm going to leave you guys and girls there. If you got anything out of this video, this really easy to understand long exposure photography video, please whack a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you get updates every time I upload a new video. I'm bringing them out weekly at the moment, people, as best I can. I've got a lot on at the moment. I've got a baby on the way as well. So much going on, but I'm trying my best to get you a video every week. If you can share one or two of them, that'd be fantastic. And I hope to see you again on another one soon. Have a good day. Take it easy. Bye.